بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أفضل الأنبياء والمرسلين Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This is part 7 to going through the book by Sheikh Mahmoud Lutfi Hafizahullah Ta'ala. The book in Arabic is called Tawheed, and the book was written, I don't know, maybe 6-7 years ago, and it was sent to the ulama in Saudi and some ulama in Egypt and different parts of the world. And the Sheikh wrote it because he's seen a need for Ahlul Sunnah and the Muslims at large, in the world at large, to reevaluate Tawheed and its application. Because a lot of times, though, things become institutionalized or archaic, where you miss the one, like Salam Tariq, Panama, what's going on, Sheikh? And people miss the mark because a lot of times terminologies change, and time periods may change, and then people may not learn how to apply these particular things to their particular situation. And that's a problem. We see many things happen in the Muslim world in general. Sorry, hold on. We see many things happen in the Muslim world in general, from revolutions and overthrows, and a lot of times you'll find it has something to do with the misunderstanding of the La ilaha illallah. It has something to do with institutionalized way of thinking, or something just being plain wrong. And it's in making Tawheed political, or making terminology of Tawheed and applying it to governments. Like Salam Tabrikat, alhamdulillah, indigenous all the way. Islam came to perfect my lineage, not to do away with it. And it came to and applying Aqidah principles to political systems. And we watch this turn into the revolutions against the Muslim authority in different parts of the world, or Muslims removing one another from their religion. This is the end result of what we're seeing. We clearly see that. That's not a shadow of a doubt. So we're going to begin, and again we're dealing with the ayat where Allah Azza wa Jal, where He said, "Ittakhadhu rahbanahum wa ahbarahum arbaba min dunillah wal masih ibn Maryam." And we're dealing with the verse in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said that they have talking about the Jews and Christians, they have taken their priests and rabbis as lords besides Allah and Jesus, son of Mary. And again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's saying here that the Jews and Christians, and we're talking about the original Jews and Christian sects. We're not talking about some of them exist today, because when these verses came down, there was no such thing as Baptist or Protestant. This is talking to the original Christian sects that are still the majority sect today, which is Orthodox and Catholic, and other forms of that, of those two, where they would go to their priests and their rabbis for judgment based upon the fact that they believed the priest and rabbi could forgive them, bless them, save them from the hellfire, give them paradise. You understand? This is what they believed. And they believed that these were God's replacements on the planet. This was the replacement of God on the planet. So the last part, and they said, "What Masih ibn Maryam?" Allah connects their belief with Jesus to the belief in the priests and rabbis. Because what do Christians believe about Jesus? A lot of us converted from Christianity, and some of our family members are still Christians. We eat the ones we go to the cookout, and the ones we go to the family reunion. The aunt, we go in the house eating up all her chicken, mashed potatoes, and corn. The mom house we going over to. Okay. All right. So all these people are still Christian. We know what they believe about Jesus. The Jews and the Christians believe that about their priests and their rabbis, for the most part. Okay. For the most part, it's not as severe in baptism or severe in what we call Protestant Christianity as it is in the original forms of it, but it's still there also. So anyway, right now we're going to talk about the last part of the secret 7 secrets of the church. And the 7 secrets of the church were at kahanut, mean priesthood. Okay, how does one become a priest? And that whole ritual right there is going to show you that they believe these people have lordship. It's not just going to them for judgment. We got to be very careful with this idea of just going to somebody for judgment makes you a non-Muslim or makes you a disbeliever. Okay, it's very, very dangerous. It's very dangerous. Look around the Muslim world. Okay, because what people have done, they've taken the ijtihad of modern day people in this particular issue and didn't look at what the Salaf, how they understood it, because their understanding was clearer, was cleaner, and closer to the truth. So I said, في يدع أسقف يده على رأس الشخص منتقد يصلي من أجل تنسقب عليه روح القدس. And he says, ويمنحه درجة كحونية. It says كحونية مقدمة لها ويصبح له سلطان مباشر خدمات الكنيسة بحسب رتبته. وقد أسس السيد المسيح هذا السر حين انتخب تلميذا وأعطى هؤلاء السلطان في تعليم إتمام باقي أسرار. And he says, kahanut, priesthood, is when a priest puts his hand, right, on a person who has been chosen, and he prays over him to raise him a degree by the Holy Spirit. So what they believe is that the priest has the ability to now put the energy and the power of the Holy Spirit inside this man. Because again, go back to the belief that they believe that these people are God's replacement on the planet. That Allah has given them divine order and divine right for the one to pass on divinity to one thing to the next. Mada Sirriya. They believe that they can make objects divine, or people divine, or water divine, or oil divine. They can pass on divinity. This is the belief system. Ask yourself, is this the same belief system that's present when you go to a courtroom today, inside any courtroom in America? How can it just be about judgment? Okay? And he says, now what is given to him through this ritual is that he is raised a level in priesthood. And now he has been given the authority to now do service for the church. And that service is to go around giving blessings, go around curing the sick, to go around killing the leper, curing the blind, forgiving the people of their sins, saving them from the hellfire, giving them paradise. This is what now the power that he has. This is the power that he has. And it's given to him through the priesthood, because now he's part of a priesthood. And he says that they say that this has been established by Isa ibn Maryam, Jesus son of Mary, when he told the disciples, when he gave them the authority to go teach the people, right, his message. So he gave them the authority, right? They believe that this is the same thing happening to the priests. This is why they say, right? They're priests and their rabbis as lords besides Allah. Wal Masih ibn Maryam. Because it's always go back to them saying they got this from Isa, they got this from a ritual he did, they got this from an act that he did, and they believe they can do the same acts, do the same ritual, get the same result. Because they believe he was divine. So they believe that the priests and rabbis is divine just like Isa is. Okay? It says, وَمَادًا مَنْظُورًا فِي السِّرِّ هِيَ وَدَعَ يَدَهُ عَلَى مُقَدَّمَ لِلسِّرِّ وَالصَّلَاةِ. And he says, and what we see happening, we see him putting a hand on the man's head, we see the ritual. But what we don't see, and what's very important, is that the priest that's doing it, they believe he's divine. They believe he has divine characteristics to pass on this rite and this ritual, because only one who has been chosen to be a vehicle for God, the only one who has been chosen to carry on the legacy of Isa and pass on this divinity and pass on these blessings, to give on this authority, to go out now and do all these miracles and all these acts. That's what you don't see. That's what we don't see. And this is what we don't understand when we're talking about going to somebody for judgment. Okay? He says, وَذَلِكَ لِحِفْظِ النِّظَامِ الْكَنِيسَةِ وطقوسها وصلواتها ومارس أسرار تعليم الشعب يسمى سر الأسرار لأن بواسط الكاهن تمارس الباقي الأسرار. And he says, so, and this is done to preserve the religious rituals of the church. Its system is rituals. Okay? The systematic rituals going on in the church, which is the 7 secrets that we went through, this is to preserve that, to keep the legacy going, to pass it on to the next person so he can pass it on to the next person, so he can pass it on to the next person. Basically, just passing divinity down the line. The hot potato. Pass it to one person, he passed to another person back. You keep the legacy alive, right? And this is them, they say this is meaning to go teach the people. To go now, you have the authority to teach, to cure, to heal, to sit, to forgive people, to bless people. Right? And the only key done between you, a go-between, meaning you cannot reach that level on your own. They may see you as somebody who has reached a certain level of righteousness. Same thing as in the extreme version of Sufiya. Now you get a certain level of good deeds, and now they say, oh, now you have reached a level to where you can go to the secrets now. You can take on these secret authority, which is now in the priesthood, where now you go around giving out these miracles and these blessings. Right? This is what they believe. Is this the same thing going on in Judge Judy's court, or divorce court, or paternity test? I don't know this stuff. You see the boards, the signs up on the highway. You telling me the people believe this about a judge in a courtroom? Nah, you're not telling me that, because they don't. Well, call the Sheikh Mahmoud Lutfi Amr. He says, قُلْتُ إِذَا لَيْسَ مَجَرَدُ الطَّاعَةِ فِي الْمَعْصِيَةِ شِرْكٍ. He said, with this being understood, that not be just someone obeys somebody in sin doesn't make it shirk. Again, just because you obey somebody in a sin doesn't make it shirk. يُخْرِجُ صَاحِبُهُ مِنَ الْمِلَّةِ. That it removes the person from the religion. Where are we getting this from? بل لابد من تقييد ذلك استحلال بالاستحلال المعصية فيصير كفرا بشروطه وانتفاء موانعه. يكون شرك أكبر إذا صاحب ذلك تأليه للمطاع فكل عبادة طاعة صرفها لغير لا شرك ليس كل طاعة عبادة فطاعة لا عبادة وطاعة الوالدين ليس عبادة لهم. فلا بد من تفريق بين طاعة المصاحبة الاعتقاد في التأليه غير الله وطاعة في المعصية بغير تأليه فأولى شرك. And he said, now, if an individual, and when you're talking about sins and somebody doing actions of sins, you have to use the principle. Because from the principle of Ahlul Sunnah, we do not remove Ahlul Qibla. We do not remove the Muslim from the religion because of sins. He said, if somebody now does the sin and believes that it's permissible to do it, and all the conditions have been met, meaning he has been advised by those that in place to advise him, all the conditions of ignorance have been lifted off of him, and then now his affairs took it to a Muslim judge, a Muslim authority, and then they judge the ruling upon him as lifting the religion. If he is to say that fornication is permissible, drinking is permissible, murder is permissible, then we go through the conditions to remove him from the religion. And this would be major kufr. This would be major disbelief, because you're disbelieving in the legislation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It still wouldn't be shirk though. It will be major disbelief. Like I said, Shirk is always kufr, but kufr does not always reach the level of shirk. Now he says, Sheikh Mahmoud Lutfi, he said, now it becomes shirk, the obedience, if the one you're obeying, you believe that he's divine, just like the Jews and Christians believed about their priests and their rabbis. If you believe that the person you're obeying, upon that belief that the people have for the priest and the rabbi, then this obedience will be major shirk. I hope I'm clear. I hope I'm clear. There's obedience that's sin. There's obedience that's major disbelief. And there's obedience that's major shirk. If you follow behind a Sufi, with extreme Sufis or extreme Shia or the Shia, whatever, you follow their imams based upon believing they have divine qualities, that they can do things only a deity can do. In the same way you believe about Allah, you believe about them when you're obeying them, then this obedience is major shirk and it's worshiping them. If you're obeying someone based upon a sin, you just want to smoke, you just want to drink, you just want to fornicate, this is sin, not disbelief, and it's not shirk. If you're obeying somebody believing that what you're obeying is better than what Allah has sent down, or you believe it's permissible, then this is major disbelief. And now the conditions have to be met to remove this person from religion, and it's not in our hands. You can't do it. It goes to the proper authorities, and they place the rule on. This is the aqeedah of Ahlul Sunnah. This is the way of Ahlul Sunnah. We just not freelancing. We're not freelancing here. We go around just saying everybody's off the Sunnah. This one's off the Sunnah. That one's not Muslim no more. No, Islam is detailed. It's a nizam. It's an order to it. We can't just go around just making up rulings and taking everybody on and off the Sunnah and on and off Islam. Even though you got some people that do that mess. All right. So he says, so every act of worship is obedience. Okay? Every act of worship is obedience. And to give this obedience to other than Allah, the act of worship, meaning the act of worship becomes an act of worship when you believe this thing is a deity. As we explained in many classes before this, that divinity has to be there. The need of something from that thing to be safe from its harm based upon the fact that you believe that it has divine qualities. And then you do an act based upon that belief. This is worship. And worship is obedience. So when you get that action, that concept to other than Allah, then this is shirk. And it says, "Alaysa kullu ta'atin ibadah." And not every obedience is worship. Okay? Every worship is obedience. But not every obedience will be worship. Okay? He says, so somebody obey their parents. You gonna say that's worshiping the parents? Or is that worshiping Allah? He said you have to make the difference between the two. Between the obedience that may be sin, or the obedience that possibly could be major disbelief, or the obedience of the one who believes that the thing he's obeying is divine. Those three are totally different levels of obedience. But when you believe that every act of obedience is worship, then you remove Muslims out the religion. Then that means nobody listening, nobody listening to this video right now is Muslim. Because I'm sure everybody disobeys Allah in something. So according to these people, according to people that believe that every obedience is worship, and every time you sin, you worship in your desires, and all that, then nobody's Muslim. Now Sheikh will get into that. There's no such thing as metaphorically worshiping something. You're either worshiping it other than Allah or you're not. And if you're worshiping something other than Allah, you have left the religion. Because there's no such thing as worshiping other than Allah and not be major shirk. So he says, "Wata'atu fi ma'siyatin bi ghayri ta'lihi fa awla shirk." He said, so the obedience of something you give, believing that it's a divine being, or the obedience you give to something you don't believe is divine, these are two different things. The first one will be shirk. The first one will be shirk, and the second one would be ma'asi, sin, disobedience. وكبائر دون الشرك بل قد تكون لطاعة لغير الله في المعروف شركا. He says إذا صاحب هذه طاعة لغير الله. He says, so if somebody disobeys Allah, again, it could be a sin. It could be obeying him in a sin. It will be a sin on the person and on you. Or it could be you obeying this person based upon you disbelieving in the Sharia, making something permissible. Then this would be major disbelief. Okay? Or it could be upon believing the person that you are obeying is divine. Just like the priests and the rabbis believed their priests and rabbis were divine. They had divine right. That you believe that if you don't obey this particular individual, that they can bring about your harm and benefit the same way that you believe Allah can bring about your harm and benefit, in a way that you can't stop, a way that's secret, a way that's unseen. This type of obedience based upon that belief, that's major shirk, and that's worship. I hope I'm clear. I hope I'm clear. He said, just like doing an act of obedience for obeying the messenger of Allah. Like say it's something that what type of obedience that is good. Obeying the messenger of Allah, right? That's good, right? Say if you obeyed the messenger of Allah believing that he was divine. Just like the priests and the rabbis. Some Muslims do. Some Muslims make dua to the Prophet. They call upon him. They obey him thinking that he can see him if they don't obey him. Even though obeying the messenger of Allah is from the religion and it's something good, that still be shirk and remove them from the religion. So it's based upon the intent. It's based upon the aqidah, the i'tiqad, the belief system that's present when a person is being obeyed. This has to be understood. This has to be understood. Because one of the Jews and Christians right now in America established the Sharia right now. Would that make them Muslim all of a sudden? Would they become Muslim all of a sudden? Or is it a process? Is it a concept they have to believe in? Or is it just ruling by the Sharia? If the Sharia was from the Asl of Iman foundation, then why did every messenger come with a different manhaj, a different laws? Why did the Asl keep changing? The foundation kept changing from messenger to messenger. The only thing that stayed the same was their belief system, because that's the judr, that's the Asl, that's the root. Practicing the Sharia is an obligation of Tawheed, meaning a person that's upon Tawheed is obligated to implement the Sharia, the Islamic legislation. If he doesn't, he's a sinner. And his Tawheed is decreased, and his Tawheed is deficient based on how much he leaves off of obligations. This is the understanding of Ahlul Sunnah. This is the understanding of Ahlul Sunnah. Okay? So he says, ففي مسألة الطاعة يرتفع إشكال إلا لو أممنا كل طاعة في معصية باعتبارها شرك صار كل عصاة المسلمين مشركين. If we go with the understanding that every obedience is worship, if we go with the understanding that every time obedience is done, that it's always in a level of worship, then all the sinning Muslims will be disbelievers. And so would you, and so would I. Every time you disobey Allah, you will go outside of Islam, and you have to take your shahada over every day. You might as well get up every morning and retake your shahada if we go with what these people are trying to tell us. The Sheikh is breaking it down for us. Sheikh Mahmoud is breaking it down for us. He's establishing the principles. Because we're going to go with every time you disobey Allah, that means that every couple of minutes, your butt needs to go in the mirror and take shahada over again because you leave Islam all day. So, but look at, when does this stuff stop? How far does it go? How far can it go? How far does it go? So, and the reason people believe this, the Sheikh about to bring this ayat, that is very famous ayat. And every time I've heard this ayat before, I got with the Sheikh Mahmoud Lutfi, and Sheikh Muqsim Maluk, I never heard the tafsir of this ayat. How people just use the ayat and say, oh, you worship your desires. And they bring a hadith that said the greatest God being worshipped on the earth is your desires, which is da'if. Jiddan. No one ever brought this tafsir Ibn Abbas for this ayat. And it clears it up. It clears up the misconception of this ayat. So it says, according to the scholars who don't agree with the scholars, and because mainly a lot of that, the opposite position, a lot of it comes out of Najd and it comes out of Saudiya, And this particular understanding, a lot of it comes from the scholars of Hind. Sheikh Mahmoud's position, it comes from a lot of times, it comes from the scholars of India in that part of the world. Okay? So, he says, من آيات التي يستدل بها بعض في تقرير اصطلاحاتهم في حاكمية استحداثهم أنواع من الشرك قوله تعالى. And this item I'm about to bring is what the people who are upon Hakamiyya, and doesn't mean, even though some of our scholars of Ahl Sunnah do kind of use this in the same way, it's not talking about them. It's talking about those people who their foundation and their usul is Hakamiyya. Not scholars who may make these particular statements, but their usul is Ahl Sunnah, and they make ijtihad, and they may be right or wrong. We're talking about those people who are from Ahlul Bid'ah, those people who their understanding of Islam is based upon the principle of Hakamiyya. Okay, that's what we're talking about. And they use this ayat to say that whoever rules by other than Allah, whoever disobeys Allah, then he's a worshiper of his desires and he left the religion. Because if you worship other than Allah, you're a kafir. This is the ayat that they use. So, أَفَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ وَأَضَلَّهُ اللَّهُ عَلَى عِلْمٍ وختم على سمعه وقلبه وجعل على بصره غشاوة فمن يهديه من بعد الله أفلا تذكرون. And he says, have you not seen the one who took in his desires as an ilah and has led him astray, and Allah has led him astray upon knowledge? I mean, Allah knows his affair, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put a shield over his hearing and his heart, and he has made his eyesight have ghishawa, confusion. فَمَنْ يَهْدِيهِ مِنْ بَعْدِ اللَّهِ. Who's going to guide him other than Allah? After Allah has misguided him, who's going to guide him back? Do you not give? Do you not ponder? Do you not ponder? They use this ayah, and this is Jathiyah, verse 23, and they say that you can take your desires as ilah, and if you follow your desires, you're worshiping your desires just like you worship Allah. This is what they believe. And again, go back to the priests and rabbis. Go back to the different levels of obedience that we talked about, that we talked about. And another thing people don't bring for these ayahs, I bring another one. They don't bring the ayahs before that was talking about idol worship. But Ibn Abbas is going to clear it up. I mean, Ibn Abbas is going to clear it up. The one who the Prophet made dua that he become the tafsir of the Quran, the explainer of the Quran. He's going to clear this right up. أَرَأَيْتَ مِنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ فَأَنْتَ تَكُونَ عَلَيْهِ وَكِيلًا. Surah Al-Furqan. And he says, have you not seen the one who took in the desires as ilah? Are you not then for him a protector or overseer? Right? It says, فَيَقُولُونَ غَلَاتُ الْحَكَمِيَّةِ. And this is the statement of those who are extreme in their Hakamiyya. Hakamiyya is those who remove Muslims from the religion for committing major sins or ruling by other than Allah has revealed. Right? The Khawarij, basically. Right? Modern day Khawarij. From the Ikhwan, from ISIS, from other than them, from these groups. The ones that are upon Islam and the ones who are being backed or established by the non-Muslim governments and things like that. Either way, they still have the same aqidah. And ittibal hawa fi ma'siyatillah shirk. They say to follow your desires and other than the obedience of Allah is major shirk. This is what they say. وَدَلِيلُ هُوَ ظَاهِرُ الْآيَةِ. They say the proof is the ayah clearly says that, right? وَحَقِيقَةُ أَمْرَ خَلَافٍ. But the reality of the issue is different than what they're saying. You even got people that say democracy is a god and it's a god, and or when you vote, you're making a god out of the parliament. You deitize the parliament. I mean, this has statements have come from scholars of Ahl Sunnah. This statement have come from scholars that we respect, not just from scholars who are from Ahlul Bid'ah. This came from scholars of Ahl Sunnah have said this. Okay? He says, so they misunderstand this because they don't know the reason why the ayat was sent down, the context. فسبب نزول الآية يوضح مراد منها فقد ذكر ابن كثير وغيره في تفسير هذه الآية. He said, and we find in Ibn Kathir and other than him in the tafsir of this ayat, he says, قال ابن عباس كان الرجل في جاهلية يبعد الحجر أبيض زمان. He said, the explanation of this ayah, Ibn Abbas said, a man used to, in the days before Islam, he would worship a white rock for some time. فإذا رأى غيره أحسن منه عبد الثاني. If he was to find something better than that first white rock, then he would worship the other one. وترك الأول. That's what he said. The ayats before is mentioning idol worship, and the explanation of it is mentioning idol worship. It's not mentioning that the desires are being worshipped. It's mentioning the desires are being followed, not worshipped. And the desire is the thing that causes him to jump from one God to the next. Not the desires with the object of his worship. The object of his worship was the idol, was the rock. But the driving force behind why he was choosing to worship this rock over this one was his own desires. The desires was not the object of his worship. You tell Ibn Abbas and understand the ayat? Ibn Abbas, all you do is come right out and say, this is those who worship their desires. He didn't. He explained it in the context of idol worship. That the desires, he never mentioned the desires of the object of the worship. He mentioned the object of the worship. And so did the law in these ayats. Talking about idol worship. So he says, Qultu, Sheikh Mahmoud Lutfi Amr. I say, فَمَنْ يَتَّبِعَ هَوَاهُ فِي الشِّرْكِ فَهُوَ مُشْرِكٌ. So from this, he says, whoever obeys his desires or follow his desires to worship other than Allah, then he's a mushrik. Not that he's worshiping desires. He's following his desires to worship other than Allah. There's an object of his worship, which will be the thing that he's worshiping, the cross. I already explained that already. We already explained that already. There's different levels to that. I explained that in many other classes, and right now, in lack of time, I don't have time to go back over that, but I've been over that before. The ayat is clear. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, those who are other than Allah revealed are fasikun, dhalimun, or kafirun. And all those things have two types, major and minor. We have the oppressor, the rebellious one, and the one who's a disbeliever. All those have two types. You have minor disbelief, major disbelief. Okay? Ibn Abbas, he said, the worship for the Muslims who implement these other ideologies as far as rulings, then this person is a major sinner to Ahlul Sunnah. If he believes that is permissible, that he believes that the ruling of democracy and other that is better than what Allah has sent down, then this is major disbelief. But how do you know that? You don't know that. People are forced to do things. People are in ignorance. They may not know better, or they may be getting paid or bribed. Okay? Because the problem is they're trying to only implement this to the rulers. Say, oh, you judge other than Allah revealed, you rule other than Allah revealed, you're a disbeliever. But even worse than the rulers are Ahlul Bid'ah, the people of innovation who rule other than Allah revealed. Why is it not being implemented on them? You see the games that the Khawarij are playing, these people are playing? The everyday Muslim who sins, isn't that ruled by other than Allah revealed? Allah just revealed politics. Allah revealed acts of ibadah. That's an obligation. And if you don't do them, then you're ruling by other than Allah revealed. You're doing other than what Allah has revealed. You're leaving off his legislation in ibadah. So why don't the people of Hakimiyya apply these ayat to the everyday Muslim? Why only apply to the political people? Because they have an intent to remove the political people. They have an intent to cause chaos and bloodshed because they love blood. These people are criminals. You understand? Because Muslim leaders are just human beings that sin, just like everybody else. Ruling by what Allah has sent down is an obligation of Tawheed. It's not the foundation of Tawheed. It's not Tawheed itself. It's an obligation that stems from Tawheed. If a person leaves it off, either he's a sinner, or if he believes that it's permissible and that what he's ruling by in place of it is better, that's major disbelief. Okay, that's it. That's it. Okay? Alright? And that's it. So, like I said, I went through this already before in other classes, inshallah, but I don't have the time tonight to go back over it. But it's clear in the Sunnah. It's clear. It's clear. So he says, Ibn Abbas, about this ayat, about taking the desires other than Allah as a Lord besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ibn Abbas mentioned that in Jahiliyyah the people will go from one God to the next. So where you delil for that? But anyway, I'm not getting the back and forth with somebody who wants to make takfir on the Muslim authorities. So if that's what you're here to do, brother, then this is not the place for you. This is not the place that we're not, no people on this right here. We're people of Sunnah who don't make takfir on the Muslims. We don't remove Ahlul Kibbah from the religion for major sins. This is what we're upon right here. The way of the Salaf. Ibn Abbas, Ibn Ahmed, they all explain these hadith and these ayat to mean minor kufr and not major kufr. Okay? You understand what I'm saying? We know that Umar ibn Khattab didn't cut the hand of the thief out of necessity because there was a famine going on. He couldn't. So Umar ibn Khattab had to stop and couldn't implement the Sharia in a particular context. What about those less than him? You understand? So just rule by Allah and law revealed. So what about a prophet? If a prophet disobeys Allah, who's greater than a ruler? Adam alayhi salam. Adam alayhi salam talked to his Lord. He was created by the hands of Allah, and nothing laysa kamithlihi shay. He disobeyed his Lord. فَغَوَى. And the Lord didn't make takfir on him. Allah didn't remove him from religion. He did it out of not wanting to lose something from the dunya. He wanted to hold on to Jannah. He wanted to gain something from the dunya. It's like Muslim rulers today, who are less than Adam alayhi salam. Adam he thought he was gaining something in the dunya, and he didn't want to lose what he already had. But Allah removed Iblis from the religion. And they both did one act, one sin. What was the difference? The aqidah behind the act. Adam alayhi salam didn't attend disbelief. Adam alayhi salam was fearing something from the dunya. He wanted something from the dunya, or not to lose something from the dunya. But Iblis intended his aqidah when he did his disobedience that he knew better than Allah. That's major kufr. And it should. Well, it's major kufr, that's for sure. So, what are we talking about here? What are we talking about? Okay. And then, I'm almost finished. So, Sheikh Mahmoud Lutfi Amri says, whoever obeys his desires or goes with his desires to worship other than Allah, then he's a mushrik. Not. So these ayats we're talking about, Surah Al-Furqan, look at the ayats before, and look at the hadith of Ibn Abbas, that in Jahiliyyah, when he asked about this ayat, in Ibn Kathir, Ibn Abbas said this ayat to take your desires as aliyah ilah, meaning he said in Jahiliyyah, a man would worship a white rock for some time, and then he would see something better than that and worship that thing. He would bounce around different gods. He didn't mention the desires being the object of worship. He mentioned the desires being the thing that caused shirk, or caused sin, or caused kufr for you to follow behind it. Now, it's not the object, it's what's behind it that push you to implement that concept on a particular object. Let's get real. So he says, وَمِنْ اتَّبَعَ هَوَى فِي الْمَعْصِيَةِ فَهُوَ الْعَاصِي. And whoever obeys his desires or follows desires in sin, then he's a sinner. He's not worshiping desires. He's a sinner. It's no such thing as metaphorically worshiping something other than Allah. Either you're worshiping other than Allah or you're not. Either you're a mushrik or you're not. Worship has a meaning. And not every worship is obedience. Every worship is obedience. Not every obedience reaches the level of being worship, or even being a sin. فَيَنْبَغِي إِزَالُ أُمُورِ مَنَازِلُهَا. He said we must. It's a must that we put everything in its proper context. لَكَمَا يَتَوْحُمْ بَعْضُ أَنْ مِنَ اتَّبِعَ هَوَاهُ فِي حِبِّهِ لِإِمْرَأَتِهِ لو على حساب الطاعات اتخذها إلها. We're not going to say that people say the person loves his wife, and by him loving her, he may obey her, right? Or right or wrong. He may obey her in something, right or wrong. According to this, he made his wife a god. According to this, he took his desires as a god, and he's also worshiping his wife. So he took two gods other than Allah. Does that make sense? I already explained that, brother. The priests and the rabbis. I already explained it already. Just go back to part 4, 5, and 6 of this for sake of Tawheed videos. I don't have time to go back over that, Hakim. No, it's not just like that. Not just making haram. That ayat, that hadith was talking about the Jews and the Christians, the priests and rabbis. They takadu ruhbanahum. Right? Arbabim min dunillah wal masih ibn Maryam. They took their priests and rabbis as lords besides Allah. What's a lord? And then why did Allah mention Isa ibn Maryam in the ayat? Did they go to did Isa make haram and halal and haram? So why did Allah put the wow there and connect the two priests and the rabbis and Jesus together in this ayat? Why? Why with the wow in Arabic? Why did he connect the two together? Because the same concept they were given to Isa, they was given to the priests and rabbis. It wasn't just going to make halal and haram. It wasn't just about that. They believed these people had divine right to do so. They were gods. They believed they had rububiyyah. They believed they can forgive them of their sins. They forgive that whatever they made okay, it was okay with Allah. Go back to the 4, 5, and 6 videos. And it explains to you what's the background belief system of the people in this, that was mentioned in this hadith, the Jews and Christians. What was the worship of them? It wasn't just making something halal and haram. They believed these people were gods, that these people were divine, that they could save them from the hellfire, give them Jannah. It's not the same thing as the Prophet wasn't talking about a political system. In the ayah or the hadith, he's talking about religious systems. He's talking about religious people, religious leadership. He wasn't even talking about political leaders. Even the ayats that talk about Surah Al-Ma'idah, that talk about Ruba other than Allah, was talking to religious leaders. That's the asl of the ayats. He was talking to priests and rabbis. You understand? Nobody from the Salaf understood it like that. Who understands it like that from the Sahaba? Bring me one companion that understands it like that. One. Not no modern day scholar, not a modern day book. Bring me a statement of a companion that they had ijma upon that understanding that you're bringing me right now. That's all you got to do. Don't bring me the statement of no scholar. No, bring me the ijma of his companions. Did the companions understand that like that? What you're trying to say. If you cannot bring that, you have no ijma of the companions, then you cannot bring it. But the companions are the ones we follow. We don't follow isolated statements of scholars. We follow thabit information, affirmation from the companions. This is our deen. We don't follow ijtihad of scholars. That's not the first thing we go to. We go back. Did the Sahaba understand it the way that you're trying to tell me right now? So then he says, "Oh, من اتبع هواه في مشاهدته لكرة القدم لو على حساب الطاعات فقد اتخذ كرة الإله من دون الله." What about the person? What about the person? What about the person who watches football? For us, they say soccer, but for let's say American football, he's watching the game, and prayer comes in or something comes in, and he keeps watching the game. You telling me now he has taken his desires as a God and football as a God? I heard people say that TV is an idol and people worshiping it. This is how what's the limit to this stuff? What's the limits to it? في شر ما يهوي العباد لا شك أن هذه النتائج باطلة يخالفها سبب النزول الآية التي بينت أن اتباع الهوى هنا مرتبط باتقاء في تأليه أحجار. He said, and then we know from these belief systems that we're talking about, it will remove everybody from the religion, number one. And we know that the ayat that's talking about worshiping your desires, it was connected to the worship of idols, meaning that your desires is the driving force behind you sinning, committing kufr, or shirk. Not that it's the object of the concept or the object of your worship, it's the thing behind the worship. Ibn Abbas know what he was talking about. You're going to tell me somebody knew better than Ibn Abbas? Now you got to show me any companion that went against this understanding of Ibn Abbas. Not a scholar after him. I'm talking about a sahabi, a sahaba that because they heard this. A Sahaba that differed with this application, the way Ibn Abbas was applying this ayat, the way that he explained this ayat. Now you got to get a companion that differed with him. And if you didn't, then this is how we understand the ayat. We only can understand it. Then what's the point of saying we follow the Salaf? If we got a clear statement of one of the Salaf, the real Salaf, explaining the ayat to us, saying, no, it's not worshiping your desires. You can't, it's no, how do you worship your desires? Who believes desires are God and it has divinity and it can harm and benefit them? Who does that? Who believes that? Anybody on the planet believes that? Somebody say, well, you say you can end up worshiping your desires. You can end up worshiping anything if you apply the concept of worship to it. But when have we ever heard somebody say that they're worshiping their desires, as they're doing rituals to worship their desires, to implement a carnal upon their desires, implement acts of ibadah for their desires? Where have we ever seen that? Have anybody ever seen that? Where? He says, so وبهذا القيود فيما ذكرت في شأن طاعة غير الله أو اتباع الهوى في المعصية تستقيم أمور في حقيقة التوحيد وحقيقة الشرك. He said, if you understand these issues with the limitations set forth by the Salaf and the limitations set forth by the Sharia, then we have no problem. The one who obeys his desires in sin, he's a sinner. The one who obeys his desires in major kufr, then he's upon major kufr. The one who obeys his desires and putting the concept of ibadah placed upon an object, then he's a mushrik. That's it. The levels are clear. And it's clear. It's clear. It's clear. Imam Ahmed said, when the people heard the ayat, that those yuhkam bima anzalallahu ulaika humul kafirun, those who rule by other law, they're the disbelievers. He said, this is not the disbelief that you're trying to go to. Meaning you're trying to say it's major kufr, and it's not. It's minor kufr first. It becomes major kufr if they believe that it's better. I mean, they make permissibility of it. Just because somebody does something doesn't mean they believe it's permissible. Did Adam believe that it was okay what he was doing? Adam made it permissible? Alayhi salam? You sure? Or was he misunderstood? Was he tricked? Because anytime you disobey Allah, your desires are involved. You say Adam was devoid of desires? So why didn't Allah say he was worshiping desires? Why did Allah remove Adam from Islam for committing one act of going against the Sharia? He's going to say, oh, well, the leaders, the ruler is different from the rule. Well, Adam was above all of that. He was a prophet. He got sent revelation. He had revelation. He knew Allah better than any ruler today. And he still, alayhi salatu salam, disobeyed his Lord. Why wasn't he removed from the religion? Iblis was removed from the religion. You know why? Because behind his sin was an aqidah. And the aqidah behind his sin that he knew better than Allah. Come on, let's stop playing. Let's stop playing. Allah gives us the conditions right there in the story. But you got those from the Khawarij and those from these people who misunderstand the deen, want to play around with Allah's deen. They want to play around with Allah's deen. But we're not going to play with Allah's deen. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us firmly grounded in understanding this deen. What is Tawheed, what is shirk, and what is disbelief? What is sin? And they all not the same thing. They are not the same thing. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless us all. And anything that I said wrong was from myself and shaitan. Anything that I said that was correct is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that may Allah bless you all in your correct understanding of Islam and following the truth. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. After I'm done with this book, I have a nice book on Tawheed that was put together by some scholars in Yemen for the public school system of Yemen. Man, nice. So inshallah, we're going to try to go over that. It's questions and answers on Tawheed. So inshallah ta'ala, we're going to probably try to go over that. I'm going to go back through Min Ajli Tawheed to try to see if there's some more chapters that's relevant to us today. that we can use here, because some of this stuff is things that may not necessarily be things we need to do right now. You make dua. The Prophet ﷺ said, there will come a time when you have leaders over you. They will have the hearts of devils and the bodies of men. The Sahabi, Hudayfa, asked, what do we do when this reaches us? He said, Isma' wa ati', hear and obey, even if they beat your back and take your wealth. That came from the statement of the Prophet. You can accept it or reject it. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, when the pan asked him about the oppressive rulers, he said, hear and obey them as long as they establish the salat. The salat is being established in the Muslim country. You're not being prevented from praying. Then you still have to be patient with this leader. Make dua for him, not against him. I'm not saying that you can't say wrong is right is right and wrong is wrong. If you see a sin, address it. But don't address it on the minbar. Write letters to the government. That's your job. For that, the Prophet ﷺ said, you go to the leader personally if you can. If you can't write letters, you go to the authorities with letters. If you can go personally, go personally. If you know somebody that's close enough to him, tell that person to go tell him. The Prophet ﷺ he was asking for that. That's it. That's the act of ibadah. For that, it's an act of worship, not about the leader. It's about act of ibadah that Allah legislated that you be patient with them, you make dua for them, and you try to reach out to them in a positive manner. That's worship for Allah. Has nothing to do with the one in the chair. It says something for you, and we're patient. Make dua for him, okay? Make dua for him. We spend a lot of time talking about the Muslim leaders, but don't say anything about the leaders here, even though we shouldn't, because Yusuf alayhi salam didn't. He didn't waste his time talking about Fir'aun or Aziz during his time, and he was locked up unjustly. People came to him, he didn't say nothing about the political system or the king. He said something about Tawheed. I got waste my time talking about the Trump and the Saudi government. I'm wasting my people's time with that. Allah going to judge them. They got to meet the law. You talking about them ain't getting them out of power. They got to meet the law for what they do, right or wrong. It's not my place. Trump will meet the law for what he's done, right or wrong. It's not my place. It's not my business. My business is calling people to Tawheed. My business is trying to correct the Aqidah of my people. First and foremost, dealing with the indigenous American, the so-called black American, which he's not black. He's an indigenous American Indian, the real original Americans. Calling them to Tawheed. And then everybody else that lives in the country after them, meaning whether you are European descent, Asian descent, so-called Native Americans, whoever, Hispanics, that's my job. My job is to see socialism in my community and try to remedy them. That's my job. I'm not waiting on nobody to do it. Allah gave them the power. Allah say, "Tu'ti mukli man yasha wa tanzi mukli man yasha." Allah gives the mulk and the dominion and power to whom He wills, and He snatches away from whom He wills. It's not my job. Allah know who He gave the hukm to. A lot of times it's jealousy why we want the leaders removed. We jealous of what they have. It ain't based upon no positivity. What you want, bloodshed? I lived there. I saw what Khuruj does. I saw what rebellion does. It's death. It's chaos. It's bloodshed. And show me where the Muslims have benefited from the revolutions right now. Show me. Wallahi, show me. Don't come with the fitna. Show me. How many of us lost family members in that stuff? I know I did. Rahimahumullah. So don't tell me that nonsense. What benefit? Egypt still got a military rule over it. They ain't ruling by Sharia either. So at the end of the day, you can remove yourself, because I'm going to remove you, because I don't want no person that's a fitna on. You're not going to come here with that stuff. You got to go. You got to go. We can't be playing with nobody, y'all. You got to go. You know what I'm saying? It's two people that I block. There's a couple people that I block. Number one, I'm blocking any woman that coming on my page with this nakedness and this misbehavior. You're getting blocked. I'm blocking any Pan-Africanness coming with that Afrocentric stuff. You're getting blocked, because we from here. We're not Africans. Our people are indigenous to the Americas. We're the American Indian. Whoever doesn't like it, I don't come with any Pan-African stuff. You're getting blocked. Not unless you want to learn. Anybody talking terrorism and talking rebellion against the Muslim authorities and cursing and making takfir of the Muslims, you're getting blocked off my page. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us all and keep us all safe. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.